I was halfway through the lunch cafeteria when my phone rang. Hello, Carol. I'm calling to tell you you've been awarded the Laidlaw scholarship. I froze and then I ran outside and burst into tears. Not polite tears, those uncontrollable, ugly kind of tears. You know that kind of crying where you can't even speak? That was me. Years of dreaming, trying, failing, and trying again finally paid off. Hi, my name is Carol, and today I'll be sharing with you how exactly I went from being a lawyer in Lagos, Nigeria, to being a full-time MBA candidate, to winning a full tuition MBA scholarship at HEC Paris, which is what at the time I did the conversion, over 192 million naira. If you're thinking of studying abroad, this video would give you some insight as to the strategies that I applied and the lessons that I learned during my own process. This video is not just about an MBA, it's about dreaming bigger even when the odds are against you in terms of funding and even your own self-doubt. So if you've ever thought that you wanted to give up on your study abroad journey, I believe that you'll be able to learn one or two things from my journey, and I think you should just hold on before you give up on that dream. So it started in 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown. I was still a Nigerian law school student. School was suspended because of COVID-19 restrictions. I was running a small side hustle at home, and I was also reflecting deeply on my future plans and what I wanted to do, even though I was a law school student. Somewhere along the line, I stumbled on MBA programs, and I did not do a lot of research about it, but one thing I saw was that for you to do an MBA program abroad, you need to have at least 2 years of work experience. At the time, I had zero experience. I had not even been called to the Nigerian bar. But somehow I knew that this was for me, so I wrote it down in my journal and I just forgot about it. Fast forward to 2023, where I now had about 3 years of work experience. The dream was back and I was ready to act. My biggest hurdle was the GRE. I took the GRE 4 times. Each time, my score fell short. The quant section of the GRE, if you've ever studied for the GRE, the quant section was very tough for me because I had not done math in like almost a decade, and balancing preparation for the GRE and a full-time job was really, really exhausting, both financially, physically, mentally, and emotionally. At one point, I actually thought that this MBA is not for me. But here's the truth. There are parts of your MBA application you can control, and then there are other parts that you can't. If some areas are not your strength, you need to double down on the areas that are your strength. So that's lesson one. Control what you can and amplify it. Make that thing that you have the power to control, or that's your strength, make it look very good in your application. Amplify that instead of highlighting your weaknesses. By the way, if you want a separate video about how I handled my GRE after taking it for 4 times, leave a comment down below and I'll make a separate video for that, because that's a different story on its own. So another strategy is that your essays are your stage. For HEC Paris, there were at least 6 essays that you needed to write. They ask you questions about your biggest life achievements, your goals, your leadership experience, etc. Don't just do like a first draft and submit. I rewrote my essays over 10 times because I kept refining them to really tell my story in a very unique and personal way. Facts might get you noticed, but stories will always make you remembered. I know that it's very easy to say, okay, you want to use AI to do your essays and stuff, but it is very important to make your essays very personal. Look for something very personal to you that no other person can have that same story that you have. And truthfully, you just have to look very well. There are things that are very, very unique to you. You have to reflect on them and, just put it together to come up with your essays. So that way it really stands you out. Don't just say, oh, this and this happened. Why did it happen? Why is it so important to you? Let every line in your essay be personal and be able to just kind of link to how unique you are and why you must be in the MBA program. I made my story very personal, but I also tied it to what I could contribute to the MBA program. To also mention that between 2023 and 2025, when I finally got into the MBA program, I had applied to over 8 schools. So even though I didn't get into all the schools that I applied to. Because I had been writing essays, it kind of prepared me for the HEC essays. In terms of scholarships, HEC has several scholarships for students. There is a L'Oreal scholarship, the Diversity scholarship, HEC Excellence scholarship, Forte scholarship as well. Then there is also the Laidlaw scholarship, which I won. So the Laidlaw scholarship covers full tuition for women, and it's awarded to up to 10 women each year. It is solely dedicated to women that are unable to afford the MBA program without funding. When you get the Laidlaw scholarship, any other scholarship that you had applied to will be rescinded because it covers your full tuition already. When you're writing your essays, right, ensure that you don't make your entire application about your need for finances. You need to be able to tell a story. You need to be able to share what you have done and what you have accomplished so that they are able to see value in you. And then if you are required to do a specific essay talking about your financial situation, as it is for the Laidlaw scholarship, because there's a separate essay you write for Laidlaw, they would ask you to demonstrate your financial need. Then you can talk about your finances. But making your entire essay about your finances is really not advisable. While it's important that you need finances, you also need to be able to show value. How have you used opportunities in the past? What have you built with what you had? How have you invested in yourself? For the Laidlaw scholarship itself, there was no interview, just essays talking about or asking about what the scholarship would mean to me and how I would be able to support the next generation of women and also to show my financial need. Next thing I want to talk about are recommendation letters. Recommendation letters can make or break your application. I chose people that I had worked with closely, that have supervised me, people that have also seen me grow, and I could give detailed examples about transactions that I had worked on. You don't just want to have a theoretical recommendation letter. Now, I know that for other kind of programs, sometimes you might want to meet your lecturer from university. For MBA programs, you need a professional recommendation letter from an employer or a previous employer. It doesn't have to be like your boss, but it has to be somebody that has supervised you. And you also want to be able to make that recommendation letter very personal. Like you need to school or guide your recommenders on what the admission committee wants to see in your recommendations. They don't just want to see that, oh, she's hardworking, oh, she's dedicated. Anybody can write that, but what are some projects that you have worked on before in the past, and what results were you able to provide that set you as part of other members of the team or other people that they've worked with before? So you need to have that conversation with your recommenders beforehand. The next thing is about your interviews. HEC's interviews are quite unique. So I had two separate interviewers and I had to present a slide to them for 5 minutes each. I started preparing my slides the minute I submitted my application, even though I had not gotten an interview invite yet, with faith. And I thank God that I did, because the moment you get an invite for your interview, you have like less than 2 weeks to round up your interviews. So it's good to prepare a topic you would like to talk about beforehand and also start working on the slides. I'll suggest that you pick a topic that you can link very well with your goals, which you must have mentioned in your application, like during your essays when you were submitting your applications. You don't really have to replicate something you have talked about in your essays, because I believe that sometimes the interviewers might have read your essays, but it still needs to be able to relate with your long-term goals and your reason for going into the MBA program. And in terms of your short and long-term goals, you really need to know them cold. You need to make it very clear. Like they're going to ask you questions. They're going to drill you on, okay, why do you want to do this? Of course, from your profile and your CV, they may be able to tell where you are coming from in terms of your profession. And they really want to know why you are going to the MBA program, your short-term goals after the MBA program, and your long-term goals, and how you intend to get there, how the MBA program will help you get there. So you need to be able to really answer questions. Don't just pick a generic long-term goal because you think the business school, aligns with that. After my interviews, I got my admission offer in, I think, less than 2 weeks. But with the scholarship decision, the wait was cold. I mean, it wasn't so long. The wait was not so long, but it felt like I was waiting for ages because I could not stop, just worrying about it. I remember just praying to God like, oh, I really want this because I knew that going to HEC Paris would be transformational. Then that lunch break call finally came. Hello, Carol. Am I speaking to Ogene Carol? I'm calling to tell you that you have been awarded the Laidlaw scholarship. I ran outside and I screamed and I started crying. And I was just like, I was running out of breath. Even the recruitment officer that broke the news to me, she kept saying, calm down, congratulations, congratulations. And she even teared up because like I was crying so much. It actually took days for everything to sink in. So here's what I've learned. Firstly, don't let your weakness define your application. Nobody has a perfect profile to say. Yes, work on making all aspects of your profile stand out, but each different people have aspects of their profile that could be better. You could be worried about coming from a non-traditional background. Someone else could be worried about not having enough quantitative skills to show. So do not let that define your application. The second lesson is that you should start early. Give enough time for your GRE. Give enough time to prepare for the GRE. Know yourself though, because people have different stories for that, but give yourself enough time. Tell your recommenders months ahead before you start applying. Because I know this is September now, this is round one application for many schools, but for HEC Paris, you have like monthly rounds to apply, but inform your recommenders early enough. Also, take time to write your essays. It took me time to come up with my essays, to write and rewrite. Give your essays to friends to read, right? When you write your essays, give your essays to them to read and then let them tell you what they think. In fact, for one of my essays, when I gave it to my friend, she told me, she said, Carol, I think that you are hinting too much on your weaknesses instead of emphasizing on the strengths that you have. You keep saying, oh, I don't have this, and that was a very good point. After I had that conversation with her, I was able to reward my essays to be able to communicate better. The next thing I'll say is to have a support system. Trust me, you can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. I'm going to say it again. You cannot do this alone. You need a support system. You need people that will tell you to keep going. Because the MBA journey, the journey to the MBA program is very tough. So you need a support system, people that have gone through the process. Reach out to MBA candidates. I had over 100 coffee chats, and I'm not even exaggerating. On my LinkedIn, I had like there's some people that I reached out to. They did not respond to me because of one thing or the other, and I reach out to others. See, this is not a journey where you want to be proud or you want to say, oh, I'm not going to talk to this person. No, you are the one that needs this. So learn to reach out to people. Have a very good professional message that you can send to them. Oh, please, can I reach out to you? And many of them, quite frankly, would respond to you. Many of them will want to support you. They will have coffee chats with you, especially if they know that you are serious, right? So you need to make out time for these things and have a support system. Have a support system in terms of your friends, your family members. I know you're going for the MBA program and you're applying because it's stressful. And then also have a support system in terms of, MBA students are already in the school, alumni, speak to them. Also have a very good relationship with the admissions committee. Let them know you're really interested in the program, not just because of funding. If they want you in the program, they are going to support you into getting the program as much as they can. I would implore that you have that community to support you. So if you're in the middle of your MBA journey and maybe you are tired and you are broke and you're just mentally exhausted and you want to give up, I would tell you that you should not. Honestly, please don't give up. Your moment might not look like mine, but your moments will come. And when it does, every late night, every setback, every thing you had to go through will make so much sense to you. I can't even remember all the times I was crying, all the days I was up at night, having to juggle everything together. I can't remember all those things now because when the time came and when everything came together, the joy that I felt and the joy that I feel, it just surmounts every stress I had to go through. It surmounted all the midnight preps I had to do. It surmounted all the pain and all the tears that I had to cry. It surmounted all the rejections that I had to navigate. When it's your time, every setback will make sense to you because mine also turned out better than I expected. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe, like, and share the video with someone that needs it.